Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
I feel like my GF used me for 5 years. I've been attempting to repair my relationship with my ex for almost 5 months now after she cheated on me with an ex-lover. We met in high school, and she became pregnant with my kid before I departed for the service. After I finished from BMT, I discovered out she was pregnant. I felt both delighted and terrified. We were both 19 years old at the time. I ended my relationship with her a few months later because I felt compelled to marry her. I wasn't fleeing my kid. I was stationed in Arizona and came to California to watch my child's birth and to assist in any way I could while I was there 2 weeks. A few months later, I returned to California to visit my kid and reconcile with my girlfriend. We reconciled, and I relocated her and my child to Arizona with me. We were together for approximately a year and a half, and I worked while she looked after my kid and went to school. During this period, I began to realize that the house was becoming more disorganized when I returned home. When I asked my girlfriend why she couldn't clean, she merely answered she was tired. I have to constantly reminding her to do simple things like clean up after herself, etc. During this time, I was talking to a female high school acquaintance, let's call her Jen, who my girlfriend didn't like. I'd never even kissed Jen, but my girlfriend was certain I was cheating on her with Jen. I never tried to keep Jen from her. I never withheld my phone, and every time I gave it to my partner she refused. In retrospect, I'm not entirely blameless in this whole incident. When my girlfriend said she didn't want me talking to her, I should have stopped talking to her. I was for protecting Jen. We split up again because we drifted apart without discussing our emotions. We continued allowing our egos to get in the way. So I assisted my now ex-girlfriend in finding employment and driving her to and from work so she could save money and move out. We continued to sleep together even while we were apart. I understand that we were broken up and that I was the one who terminated it, but bear in mind that she has been telling me all along that I am cruel, and that even though I shattered her heart, she only wants me. We finally reunite for a year before breaking up again for the same reasons. I became quite unhappy because I kept believing that our terrible relationships were totally my fault. I went to counseling for my despair and eventually mustered up the nerve to ask her out for the last time. She said that she wants to attempt to figure things out, but that she wants to take her time. So this significant catastrophe began in mid-December of 2020, when we started work on us. She seemed really distant, which was unusual since even when we were apart, we were rather close. She spent Christmas Eve at a friend's home, and I had to call her Christmas morning to come open gifts with her kid. She then skipped New Year's to attend a party at one of her pals' homes. I discovered a pregnancy test in a garbage bag she brought in from her vehicle a week later. It's in my name. When I confronted her about it, she stated it was because of me, although she had always notified me about any pregnancy worries previously. As she would tell me when she was concerned about her menstruation being a bit late. This was also the first time I learned she had physical encounters with someone other than me. Even though we weren't together at the time, it crushed me. We made our relationship public a few days before Valentine's Day. I worked as hard as I could to prepare a meal for us, and she even spent 3 hours getting ready in the bedroom while I was setting up the kitchen. I had booked more dates for which she again failed to show up. She wanted me to arrange these things, but she couldn't even remember where we were going. After a month, I discovered images of her with an ex on my bathroom counter. She became quite protective and refused to let me view the images, but I caught a glance. Throughout this period, she has led me to think that she has only had me as an emotional partner. I inquired whether the guy was from high school, and she confirmed that he was. It was clearly her from lately. I asked her if there was anybody else, which I'd done numerous times by this point, and she replied I was insane. She looked me in the eyes and told me she loved me and that she didn't need anybody else except me. We intended to marry and have other children. We had sex the following morning, and I was the first to go down on her. I was becoming more concerned since she was being aloof and secretive in ways she had never done before. I accessed our laptop and snooped on her social media accounts. The first thing I discovered was a photograph she gave to this man, John, who said, "She can't think about anybody else when you're within her." My heart smashed into my chest, and I began panicking. This prompted me to search through more of her social media, where I discovered many Snapchats between her and two other guys. For clarification, her AP name will be John. She was S8ing another man at the same time, and they planned to do it at work. So I suppose you could say she had two AP. When I confronted her, she began weeping and spouting all of the typical cheater nonsense. She cheated on me the night before and took the man into my bed while I was at work, it turns out. I punched our closet door numerous times after she verified it, and I noticed a number of their text messages. I've never been so enraged at somebody in my whole life. I'm not even fond of battle. I was her even while at work that day. She didn't utilize any safeguards. She let me eat and go unprotected just after another guy finished with her. All of this has left me feeling terribly embarrassed and terrified. This time, I was entirely dedicated to this lady, and I was prepared to go to any length to spend the rest of my life with her. That is why I sought counseling and wanted to marry her. We planned to marry and have additional children. We made a schedule and everything. Every time she had a problem with me, she would whine to him and threaten to leave me for him. She would copy and paste texts from me to him and vice versa. She genuinely informed this man that she would wait for him if necessary. I feel cheated and used. I'm not sure how someone can do this to another person. I've been trying to work on our relationship for 5 months now, but these memories make me furious in an unusual way. I've shouted at her more in the past 5 months than I ever have before. Before this, I had never shouted at her. Even after this long, I'm completely exhausted. What options do I have? Story 2. Cheating in the digital age via FaceTime. So, around a year ago, my buddy divorced. Obviously, it's been quite difficult for him. Since they divorced at the end of 2017, his ex-wife, who was also a friend of mine, has been mentally with him. I'm sure he had a role in the relationship's demise, but he's a genuinely quiet, calm, kind man who keeps to himself. What truly irritates me is her contention that the primary cause for their breakup does not constitute infidelity. My buddy remained at home one night to babysit their 2 children while his wife went out to supper with a friend. This was rather typical. They lived in her hometown, and she had many local acquaintances. Their relationship was okay at the time, no major squabbles or conflicts. Money was tight, he worked long hours in NYC, and there was some argument because she didn't want to work to be at home with the kids but placed them in daycare nonetheless. But that was about it. Typical marital squabbles. Anyway, that night, at midnight, he awoke to find the space in his bed next to him vacant. Okay, maybe she fell asleep while saying goodnight to one of the kids or watching TV. But as he got to the top of the stairs, he saw no lights and couldn't hear the TV. He walks down and checks around the main floor, clearly worried. No messages suggesting she was sleeping at a friend's home, etc., and then notices a light on in the guest room. He puts his ear to the door and hears muted conversations, but he also hears some vulgar stuff. When he hears her say something like, "Yeah, you want me to do that, don't you?" he flips out and slams the door open. Like in a movie. His wife, apparently astonished but definitely inebriated, is laying essentially nude on the guest bed, going to town on herself while FaceTiming with someone. The call terminates before my buddy can see who is on the other end of the line. He dials the number and receives no response. The VM gets erased in a matter of seconds. Things certainly go downhill from there. She's heartbroken and says that's the 3rd or 4th time she's done it. Over the following year, she gradually begins to persuade him that he is the reason she did it. He need counseling. He destroyed the marriage. They decide to divorce, but he has nowhere to go, so he has to remain downstairs in the room she did what she did for the months preceding up to the selling of their house. She carries on her onslaught, calling him a child, saying he's a cheap loser, despite the fact that she doesn't work. His masculinity is insulted by her mother. Extremely venomous insults. Despite this, she sought to get into bed with him on a regular basis. It's a shambles. And the divorce is much more tumultuous. And now she's turning the children against him since he can't afford to live close and make the large child support payments. But more than anything, she says that she wasn't cheating, therefore defending her conduct. I mean, I believe that's cheating, particularly because they weren't in a fluid/open relationship. Someone else was on the other end of the phone, wanting to up with her. It's quite black and white, in my opinion. Anyway, I was curious to hear what everyone else thought. Thank you very much.